Welcome in everyone to the LARSONLAND Podcast. I'm your host, Sawyer Hill, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Dylan Bradshaw, as well as Austin Gatier. We come in here every single week and talk about all things involving the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Young Money, Kyle Larson. Busy week of racing for Kyle Larson this over the past 7 days. Two races at Atomic in the sprint car and the late model, a night at Eldora, and then on to Kansas with the NASCAR Cup Series. Austin, let's get to Atomic first because you were there. What was the environment like? It looked like the crowd looked awesome. I mean, it looked like a record crowd there at Atomic. I don't know that for sure, but looked like a good time there.
Yeah, it was a good time until you hit the concession stand lines. But overall, it was packed from turn 3 and 4 stands all the way to where I sit. Huge, packed. It was a great night of racing. Pits were filled. That's the most amount of people I've ever seen in the pits.
Yeah, I mean, when you get Kyle, it's the Kyle Larson effect, right? I mean, Kyle was
Oh,
there
yeah.
running two cars. He was in the sprint car and in the late model, Dylan. Picked up the win in the sprint car. He had a bad, fast car. I think him and Tyler Courtney were pretty much even, but Larson was able to get Courtney in traffic and come away with his first sprint car win of the season.
Yeah, like you said, they were battling in traffic. I think it was around the 8 to 9 laps in mark. They kind of hit that lap traffic, but yeah, Larson took the lead with around 18 to go. Larson negotiating lap traffic very well. I mean, he was just threading the needle in between those cars, just bobbing in and out. But I mean, it was definitely a good one for sure. I think you put on the tweet, it's been 238 days since his last sprint car win. Which seems crazy, but there's only been 2 races since. So,
Right.
but yeah, he picked up the first one of the 2023 season. It was a good one, and started second, finished first. So, definitely a good one in Atomic.
And definitely, I think we gotta back up a little bit to the heat race action there because it was not without drama at Atomic. I mean, Austin, you were there, you saw it. Kyle got penalized on the start of the heat race, got docked a row for I guess not really jumping the start, but being out of line on the initial start. They put him back a row, and he had to fight for that fourth spot because he was quick time in qualifying, which locked him into the dash as long as he stayed inside the top four in his heat. And he was running fifth until the last corner. He got by, I think it was, I don't know who, I think it was JJ Hickle or somebody. I can't remember who it was that he got by, but definitely chaotic there in the heat race.
Yeah, it had me on my feet, you know. I'm sitting here cheering for a heat race, but what I found interesting was that like he got docked the row, but if you go back and look at all the other heat races, he wasn't the only one doing it.
Right.
It was something that was occurring for everybody, and I think even in the heat race after him, I don't remember who it was, but someone did the same thing. And I mean, I was worried for the feature part of the track because, you know, normally you just have support classes and they're not going to blow off the track as fast. But when you have like Lucas and then you have all stars on the same track, I didn't know how it was going to race. And in the heat races, I thought it was just topside heavy. You know, it's one of those heat race moments where we just call it boring.
Right.
But for the feature, the track shaped out to be so well. And I can't complain. It was such a good night.
Yeah, really for both races, I think it was a
Yeah.
really good racetrack. I mean, I saw on Twitter D Suave, Derek Kessinger, he was kind of making the claim that that night proved that late model racing is better than sprint car racing. I'm not gonna comment on that, but I do think that the late model race was a little bit better. I mean, Kyle did not win the late model race. He ended up finishing fourth. He kind of started off the night not so good in qualifying. He started a little bit behind the eight ball and struggled in his heat race to get a couple spots and started 14th in the feature. Ended up coming up to finish fourth. A good run all in all for Kyle, but one heck of a race there in the Lucas event.
Yeah, I mean, he
Oh
was
yeah.
charging through the field. I think it's one of those cases. If he had a few more cautions, I think he definitely could have competed for the lead at the end. Just one of those days. But a lot of fast guys that night. Hudson O'Neal, he was super quick. But going back to like Lucas and Circuit of Champions, a lot of people were kind of saying it would be really cool to see High Limit and Lucas Oil on the same night. And I think it was Michael Rigsby kind of hint at it that it could definitely happen 2025, maybe as soon as 2024. I'm not sure. I know on the High Limit podcast, they kind of talked about getting rid of the support classes because the car count's just super high in those nights, like 50 sprint cars, just kind of drags the show on. But I mean, that'd just be crazy seeing High Limit and Lucas just in one night, just ton of action, all the superstars out there competing. It definitely be a pretty cool show.
Yeah, and especially I think also with the fan turnout. I mean, you saw it there at the track, Austin. It was a super good crowd. I mean, probably the biggest crowd you've ever seen at Atomic. I mean, maybe there were some other events there that pulled a bigger crowd, but when I don't even think it was just Kyle Larson being there because I know it was announced a couple of days in advance that he was going to be there, but I think if Kyle wasn't there, I think this would have been a huge crowd just because you've got two premier series competing on the same night on the same track, and you don't have a bunch of other stuff out there. I mean, it's a middle of the week show, and people don't want to sit there all night long and watch street stocks or modifieds or whatever it is. And no offense to those guys, I know that they're important and they need time to race too, but middle of the week show, people want to get in and out, and I think they did a great job getting the show on. I mean, what time did you get out of there, Austin?
Well, the parking lot was miserable, but I was in my car. I was in my car at about 10:45, 11,
That's not
and
bad.
that was even after taking a visit in the pits afterwards.
Okay.
So it was really fluent that night. They just got it going. Next thing you know, it was all done.
Yeah, you can't complain about that. I mean, parking lots, dirt tracks, they're hit or miss.
Yeah.
They're barely hit or miss. I mean, we've all I think had our experiences in the parking lots after the races, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
they're just all in the middle of nowhere. There's like one road going out. People are just cutting people off, honking, screaming. Everyone just wants to go home.
yeah, by far. Well, I think by far the longest I ever waited was last year at Bridgeport. I think I sat there for probably an hour and a half waiting to get out of the parking lot. I remember that night I was like I had a killer headache after the race too. I was just ready to get home, and it was just stopped. Like nobody was moving. And then also last year, when I was leaving from Hagerstown during PA Sprint Week, there was somebody in front of me that like ran into somebody and they like got outside of the cars and they were like getting ready to have a fist fight in the parking lot. So it's always something. Just try and stay. I mean, it's like you kind of feel like Kyle Larson when you're in the parking lot. You're trying to avoid the chaos. You're trying to avoid the incidents from happening. And kind of segueing into Eldora on Friday night, it was a very chaotic night for Kyle Larson, and he got disqualified in his heat race, and it wasn't for jumping the start or for being out of line on the start. He was involved in a pretty big incident with Zeb Wise coming down the back straightaway, and Kyle was DQ'd from the heat for not stopping under the red flag. What were your guys' thoughts on that, Austin? I'll ask you first. I mean, do you think this was a penalty that is justified, or was it a little bit of BS?
I mean, me personally, I mean, of course, I'm biased. I'm a huge Larson fan, but when you look at the video again, and he's coming around the top side of turns 3 and 4 with no wing. I mean, and then you look at the bottom of 3 and 4, and you see, I think it was Jacob
He-
Allen
yeah.
rolling down the bottom, and he's still moving. And then you see Kyle coming to the pits. I just don't get how he got it, but then you have Allen rolling the bottom, still moving under red. Like it didn't make any sense to me. But it's Larson. I knew he was going to do something afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. I saw the clip. The clip they actually like cut it off when Jacob Allen was starting to roll into it. But yeah, Zeb Wise kind of washed up the track back straight away, got into Larson, drew a big collision. Larson was able to stay planted. Thankfully, he didn't flip, but unfortunately, Wise he took a couple turns. Thankfully, ended up being okay. But yeah, disqualification was just ridiculous. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't like the flow racing suit he had on. Who knows? But it just seems to always be something World of Outlaws and Larson. Even going back to last year at Bristol, running double duty, they penalized him because he couldn't get to the start in time. It's just
Yep.
kind of always something World of Outlaws, and who knows, maybe that's part of the reason why they started High Limit up. They kind of want to become the premier show, take it over from World of Outlaws. Who knows? But it definitely kind of seems like they have something out for Larson. It continuously happens pretty much every event he goes to.
Yeah, and I agree with your points, and I think it's also important to point out too. It's like this was kind of silly. If we're considering the damage that was done to Larson's car, I don't think with the amount of time for the cleanup of the wreck, I don't think he was probably even going to be able to go back out and make laps. I mean, even if they put a new top wing on the car, I don't know if the damage elsewhere on the car was even, if it was at an amount where he could have even kept going if they were to put a new wing on the top. So it kind of seemed like a silly move for them to throw him out. And I guess the only thing I can kind of think of is maybe they didn't like it because he was coming into the pit area, or like the hot pit area, where maybe the safety workers were trying to get out from that area at the same time. They didn't want some kind of collision between safety workers and him coming into the pits. I mean, obviously I want to look at it from an unbiased standpoint, but I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when there's so many different things. You got high limit, like you said, and the flow racing suit. I know that's a joke, but yeah, I mean, disappointing. But Kyle was able to start on the pole of the B main and end up finishing 10th in the A. Salvaged a decent night. I mean, maybe they learned something for the Eldora Million in July, but it was a pretty much, I would say, a chalked night for them. I mean, the car probably wasn't right all feature long.
Yeah, I mean, in the B main, the car just didn't seem like it was on point, which is, I mean, expected. He took a lot of contact there with Zeb Wise, but finished second in the B main. Like you said, he transferred, started 22nd. Slow start in the feature for him, starting 22nd. He was around 18th halfway through the race, 13th, I think, with 5 to go. But he ended up salvaging the top 10 finish. If only it were, maybe a 50 lapper with a few cautions, you never know. Every time Larson starts in the back, it kind of seems like if he just had a little bit more laughs, he would be the car up front. But Crew did a great job getting the car back out there. A lot of people thought he was going to pack it up, but it wasn't the perfect car, but I mean, it was competitive enough to get the top 10 finish. So decent night all in all. Hopefully, like you said, it prepared him for the million. And hopefully he goes out and gets that one with no controversy. It seems every race Larson's involved in something. He's a headline on Twitter for something. So hopefully that's smooth sailing there.
Absolutely. And kind of speaking about the Eldora Million, I mean, I wanted to kind of throw this out there. I mean, anybody for you guys, is there anybody other than Rico that you're taking to win that race right now at this point in the season? I mean, Rico has been super hot. Obviously picked up the win there on night 2 at Eldora. Should have probably won on night 1 as well. He looks fast, and he's been fast everywhere, especially on half miles. I think Rico is my pick to win the million as of right now. I mean, can you go against Rico Abreu?
I
No
mean,
shot.
you
No
know those
shot.
are my picks. I always pick Rico or Larson, so you kind of put me in a bind here.
Yeah,
Rico's just dominating. There's just no way around it.
yeah. I mean, he's been super fast, and I'd like to say that Kyle is on that pace, but obviously Kyle hasn't been in a sprint car that much this year. Only 4 races now that he's been in the sprint car, and one of them completely chalked. The last one at Eldora. So good win at Atomic. Hopefully that carries over some momentum. I think the next sprint car event that's confirmed for Kyle is next Tuesday at the Wayne County. I think it's Tuesday at Wayne County, with the High Limit Sprint Car Series. I think that's the $32,000 to win show. Definitely super excited about that one. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything else before that. Maybe potentially running Lincoln tomorrow night. I mean, that's a stretch for sure, but that's the only other show that I think he could possibly make. I think a lot of people have been asking about Williams Grove, whether he might be there this weekend. Doubt it, because he's obviously doing double duty at Darlington. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But a lot of sprint car racing coming up for Kyle Larson. Not much late model stuff coming up. So definitely, if you're a sprint car fan, if you love watching Kyle Larson in the Paul Silva owned 57, stay tuned, because there's a lot coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's kind of getting in gear with the sprint car, like we said earlier, with the million. The weather has been a really big issue, though. I mean, all these tracks we keep talking about every week, the weather's been a really big issue, raining out. The high limit events raining out, had to postpone them. The first show at Tulare opening the year, that was rained out, didn't reschedule that one because it wasn't a points race. But just all in all, the dirt racing, tons of rainouts, late model and sprint car. Who knows if we'll really see too much racing this year? As we know, Larson, it's really limited with what he runs. He kind of has to pick and choose around the NASCAR schedule. So when those races rain out that he can race, it's really a bummer.
Yep. So hopefully we get to see more, but for now we get to now move on to talk about NASCAR.
Woohoo!
I don't know, man. I'm so frustrated with the NASCAR side of things. I think it's like, when we see Kyle run, fourth in the late model, it's not frustrating. Like, I'm like, okay, it's a good run, but when he runs second and leads like a good amount of the race and has one of the fastest cars all day, gets wrecked twice, wrecked by Denny Hamlin on the last lap, and just completely disrespected. I mean, again, for like probably like the fourth week in a row, Kyle gets disrespected by somebody on track. It's pretty frustrating to watch, man. I mean, I understand that a lot of people think that the contact with Denny Hamlin was just a racing deal, but when I see it, I could have told you that was going to happen with 20 laps to go. I mean, Denny definitely had a better car in the last 20 laps of the race, but he should have been able to pass Larson clean if he was that much faster. You didn't have to run into him coming down the back straightaway and turn him. I mean, luckily Larson was able to come away with the second place finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty lucky to control the car there. I mean, it looked like he was going to spin out for sure. But going back to Twitter, Caitlin Larson with the tweet, "Actions hypocritical." He wants to go on his podcast and preach respect and showing respect. And pretty much ever since he said that, he's been one of the main culprits, starting with JJ Yeley the immediate week after he said that. So I don't know, man. He kind of seems really mellow about it. Like, oh, it's not a big deal, especially considering Larson and him are pretty good friends. He kind of seemed like on the podcast, like, oh well, happened to you. Oh well, I got the win, so it doesn't matter. But man, just another week, car capable of winning. I think it was a pretty good race. I think it broke the record in Cup history for lead changes at Kansas. So, next gen, it's proven to be pretty decent on the mile and a half tracks, but kind of plagued with cautions there in stage 2 and 3. But yeah, Larson was just up front a lot of the race after lap 6 getting wrecked by Reddick, which both wrecks he was leading. That was just a bonehead move. Reddick was just kind of trying to throw it in between Larson and Wreck-It Ross there on lap 6, and just a pointless blocked old position. It's just stupid, but wasted a set of tires. I thought that was really going to screw us at the end. We only had 7 lap scuffs. A lot of teams had stickers, so second place finish could be worse, but just another one where we had to win. Could probably have freaking 6-7 wins right now in the year, but we just seem to be caught up in everything.
Yeah, I'm tired. I think Kyle I'm tired of it. Sitting on the couch watching the race. I know Kyle's got to be tired of it, dude. I know Kyle's not the type to like get mad and show a lot of emotion, but like, jeez, dude, it was funny. It was funny. I think it calmed him down super quick after the race when he looked onto the TV monitor and saw the Amish kid and the watermelon farmer going at it, throwing hands after the race. Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson. Austin, I gotta ask you, man. This could have shaped up to be an all-time NASCAR fight, but somebody had to stand in the way of it. What were your thoughts on the fight, and who do you think would have won if they were able to go to the death?
Man, I keep watching that video, and I can't stop watching it. But Chastain connected good, very first punch. But I think Gragson had the second one coming for him, and if that dude wasn't in the way, I don't like Ross, so I'm going Gragson.
I thought it was so funny how like the amount of like videos that NASCAR social media had like after the race. They had like the first camera angle that came up like from behind Gragson before the fight started. He was kind of just like standing there. Like it seemed like he was like waiting for the video to start for him to like go and walk up to Ross. And then they had like the other camera angle where you could like hear what they were saying. And then you could on that one, like you could hear Ross connect so hard with that punch. Like it sounded so solid. And then there was the third video that came out where like Chase Elliott was like, "Yeah, somebody had to do it." Just funny set of events there, and it definitely lightened the mood a little bit after a tough race for Kyle Larson.
Yeah, good on Gragson for confronting him. Bad on the security guard for not letting Gragson at least get a shot in. But I think if Gragson was kind of put his hands on Chastain first, should have just went for it. I mean, maybe he didn't think he was going to throw a punch. But he definitely, like Austin said, he got a good shot on Gragson. You could hear him right in the jaw pop. They had the mic right down on it. But I saw someone on Twitter say NASCAR needs to set something up that they need to have NHL style fight. Just let the boys have at it, duke it out till someone falls or someone's just getting absolutely obliterated, and then let the officials step in. But probably not ideal for driver safety. But as fans, we'd like to see it. And like you said, I mean, it seems like NASCAR kind of frowns upon that type of thing. We don't see that anymore. So for them to have all those clips and footage and just posting it, just putting it everywhere, it's kind of surprising to me. But I mean, it was cool. It was cool to see someone finally step up to Ross. Nothing really happened to Ross, obviously, because Gragson didn't get anything in. But you know, good on Gragson for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was about time that somebody did something. I feel like we talk about Ross every single week on this podcast. I mean, he's a popular dude. I mean, he's doing a lot of stuff, getting his name in the media, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Was like I was actually really surprised, not surprised, but I think it's funny how NASCAR puts it all across their social media. I don't know if you've heard anything about like anything, like any fines or anything that are going to be announced. Has there been anything released yet from the fight?
No, I haven't seen. That's
Okay.
why I was most surprised about all the posting because they usually
Yeah,
do
that's
all
what
the
I was
fun
gonna
stuff.
say. Was like I don't know. I like they're probably gonna fine them. I would assume, or there's gonna be something, some kind of penalty that comes out about it. And they post it and they like milk the content as much as they can. So it's just kind of funny there, but it is what it is. Hopefully, Ross got a little bit of like some kind of message from that, and moving forward, I mean, we just hope he just stops running into people. I mean, it's just every week it's another incident with him, and he's done it one too many times, I guess. But moving on to next week, we got a busy week for Kyle Larson this coming weekend. Double duty running the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series at Darlington. He's going to be in that Colleague number 10 car, the classic HendrickCars.com scheme there. But then today, Dylan, the throwback scheme got announced. I'm going to put that up on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. This is the scheme, throwing it back to Tony Stewart in the Xfinity Series with Hendrick Motorsports at Daytona. I think it was, what year was it, Dylan? Was it 2009, I think?
Yeah, I think it was 2009.
So
It was
really,
the Xfinity win at
really
Daytona.
cool scheme here. I love the scheme. I think it looks super slick. I mean, it kind of looks like it could be like a scheme today that we see. I mean, it's a really clean scheme.
Yeah, it's a good scheme. I think some people were disappointed. Everyone kind of wanted the throwback Labonte scheme.
Especially
We
after we
posted,
posted it.
yeah, especially after that. Everyone was just spam tagging Hendrick. It just blew up. A lot of people thought it was real. They were sending it to everyone like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this on track." So maybe a letdown for those that thought the one we posted was real. But it's a really clean scheme. It's really cool to see. It's just super clean. It could definitely be a primary, I think, but of course, the Darlington throwbacks are kind of just one offs. But it's refreshing to see something new because we always see the same Hendrick blue car every single week. So Darlington, and then we see the Valvoline cars later in the year. Usually, those are the only time we see a different scheme. So refreshing to see, and it's going to look really cool on track, I think.
Yeah, I would love to see some different schemes and stuff. And I was talking when I was at Richmond for the win. I was talking to front tire changer Blaine Anderson, and he was asking about the scheme that we posted, the Kellogg scheme, and he was like, man, he was like, I hope that's our throwback scheme. He was like, I'd love to have like a fire suit with that scheme on it, and he was like, that'd be a really cool one. But maybe next year we can always hope and wish and dream for that. I feel as like the very coolest schemes out there are the ones that like never get a throwback. Like that's definitely one of the all-time coolest schemes. Probably the best one that Kyle could but potentially do if it was gonna go for like one of like a previous 5 car scheme. But yeah, maybe we'll just have to wait till next year.
I feel like we're kind of to the point with the Darlington throwbacks. We're kind of running out because like the Xfinity guys, everyone's just dipping their hand in all the throwbacks. I've seen a few like repeat throwbacks in at least Xfinity that
Yeah,
have already been ran before. So I don't know, what else we could really do.
yeah, I agree. I think we're gonna see like more and more of that. Like they're trying to get creative. They don't want to like use everything up. And I'm sure there's also probably like licensing issues with like certain schemes and stuff. Like I know one thing like on the IndyCar side of things, like the Indy 500 this year, one of the Arrow McLaren cars is running the famed like Marlboro scheme. Like it's not the Marlboro red car, but like basically what that scheme is like it looks like the chevron, like the Marlboro like logo on the car. So it's a scheme that like it has some issues where you try and like run that because it's literally the logo of the other company on the car that is the scheme. So they're like doing that this year in orange with a different sponsor. I think kind of ironically with Views. I think Views is the sponsor on that car, but um definitely love throwback weekend. Going to be a big weekend of racing at Darlington. Hopefully Kyle Larson can win. I mean, he's going to have a fast car. We know that. He's always fast at Darlington, and looking forward to the race on Saturday and on Sunday. I don't think there's anything else I have for today's show, unless you guys had anything else. I think that pretty much wraps things up.
Should pretty much wrap it up. Just like you said, looking forward to Darlington. Hopefully, he can finally get that Darlington win. He's come super close, especially in the Xfinity. Almost got that done last year, but Darlington, it's one of those tracks. He just has to get that one done, and he's looking pretty good. So hopefully, he can pick that one up on Throwback Week last year at Throwback Weekend. Super quick car. Had some trouble, didn't get to finish that one. Hopefully, we can finish this one. Just avoid anything happening, any wrecks. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So thanks again, Austin, for coming on the show. We
Yep.
always love the extra company, the extra insight, the
Yep.
atomic master, Austin Gutierrez. Double duty covering the race there from Atomic. Appreciate you coming on the show. We'll be
Yep.
back again next week to recap all of the racing from Darlington, as well as anything else that Kyle Larson may compete in. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please follow our podcast so you never miss a thing. Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and we will see you in the next episode.